resigned to government dependence, hateful of American heroes, intolerant of dissent, disdainful of rural communities, and steeped in arrogance. No one had ever given voice to it all like Trump and his no-holds-barred brashness and braggadocio, which won him deep loyalty and admiration among many Republicans. The enemies he made and the battles he fought inspired a sense of hope on the right that what had been lost, factories, family farms, coal mines, traditional mores, the Protestant work ethic, the good old days, however defined, could be regained. As the pandemic stretched into the summer of 2020, and the passions aroused by the presidential election burned hotter, I realized that it was now or never for driving the Lincoln Highway. To avoid the need for hotels, I began researching RVs, which I knew almost nothing about. I'd ridden in one only once, at the end of senior year in college. About 10 of us rented a motorhome to drive to the Kentucky Derby, and we broke down about halfway. The dealer agreed to deliver a replacement vehicle in a few hours, which turned into half the night. We didn't mind, since someone had the foresight to bring along a keg of beer. We didn't sleep, and pulled into Churchill Downs at daybreak, not needing mint juleps, but having them anyway, and taking in the bacchanalia of the infield. This, it turns out, was not an accurate representation of RV life, except for the part about waiting on repairs. After consulting with friends who had recently rented motorhomes, I zeroed in on the largest one I wanted to drive and the smallest one I wanted to live in, a 25-foot Winnebago Navion with a full bed, toilet, shower, sink, stove, oven, dinette table, and even 2 televisions, plus a sleeping loft over the cab. Dealerships were sold out, listings were light, and long-term rentals were quite expensive. I was far from the only one to have the idea of RVing to escape the lockdown. But an online ad had just posted a 2017 model with 30,000 miles. I put in an inquiry without mentioning it to Laurel, who had scoffed at the whole idea of the trip. "Frank, there's a pandemic happening." When she begins a sentence with my name, it usually means the matter is settled. But one of the many reasons I fell in love with her is her sense of adventure and openness to ideas of mine that fall somewhere between half-baked and harebrained. The Winnebago's owner, Kim, replied the next morning. As we traded emails, I tried showing Laurel the listing, but she waved it off as ridiculous. Eventually, over dinner and a bottle of wine, with Taylor Swift's just-released Folklore playing, she agreed to look. It helped that when I initially raised the idea of the trip, I had proposed doing it in a van. The Winnebago was bigger than she had expected, about 150 square feet, the same size as Henry Thoreau's cabin at Walden Pond. If he could use a tiny cabin in the woods to drive life into a corner, surely we could use a tiny cabin on wheels to drive life out of the corner COVID had put us into. I confessed to Laurel that I'd been emailing with the owner. She wasn't fazed. I spoke with Kim the next morning to go over some additional questions, and she delivered the message I'd been fearing. She already had a buyer. Since I was her first inquiry, she would sell it to me, but the price was non-negotiable, and she needed a decision. Today. Uh-oh. As daily subway riders, neither Laurel nor I had ever bought a car. Were we really going to make our first motor vehicle purchase a Winnebago? The process was moving faster than I had expected. I hadn't even yet pitched my boss at Bloomberg News on the idea of taking the trip and writing a weekly column about it. I was putting the cart before the horse, and it was not an inexpensive cart. But the price was reasonable, and unless we wrecked it, it would hold most of its resale value. I asked Laurel, "What do you think?" She didn't hesitate. "Let's do it." I asked if she wanted to see the listing again, to be sure. "No, just do it." I asked again, "Are you positive?" "Frank, let's buy an RV." She's the decisive one. It usually takes me a long time to make a major decision. We dated for 7 years before I finally proposed, but with the world collapsing around us, it was easier to let go. I called Kim and told her, "We'll take it." Many people are not big on surprises, Laurel included. So before